Hey everybody, Sean from Media Assault here, and it's time once again to revisit my Batman series. If this is the first video in my Batman series that you're watching, basically what I'm doing is reviewing all of the Batman films, starting at Batman, the 1989 Batman, and moving through to The Dark Knight from 2008. And what you've stumbled upon is my review of Batman and Robin from 1997. And this was the second and the last, thankfully, of the Joel Schumacher directed Batman films. If you watched my Batman Forever review, I touched upon how basically in the first 10 minutes of Batman Forever, Joel Schumacher basically highlighted how his Batman vision was completely different than Tim Burton's vision of the Batman character. So whereas Burton was dark and brooding and just sort of more of a thoughtful, more sensitive type of a character, Joel Schumacher came along and said, okay, we're going to go completely in the opposite direction, and everything is going to be big and loud and bright and stupid. And this is even worse than Batman Forever, if that was even possible. The film is just a complete exaggeration of everything that was already exaggerated in Batman Forever. It continues the over-the-top motif of Batman Forever and turns the volume up to 12. In all honesty, this is everything that the Batman character should not be. We've got George Clooney stepping in as Batman this time out. He's replacing Val Kilmer, who in turn replaced Michael Keaton. Essentially, the series is pretty much untouched other than the replacement of Batman. So from Batman Forever, we have Chris O'Donnell returning as Dick Grayson, the Robin character, and Michael Gough is also back as Alfred. The villain characters this time out are Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze and Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy. I'm not even going to get into the creation and the plot, the origins of those characters and the plot line, because it's just really not worth it. Basically, what happens really quick is Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy team up in a ridiculously contrived plot, and they fight Batman and Robin. And Alicia Silverstone comes on the scene as Alfred's niece, and she in turn becomes Batgirl, yet another character in this completely overpopulated movie that we don't need. This movie would have been a whole lot better, if Joel Schumacher took any pride in or had any respect for the Batman universe and the Batman characters. And also, it would be a lot better if there was only one villain in this film. There's too much time spent on the villains because we've got Poison Ivy doing her thing and Mr. Freeze doing his thing, and we have to go back and forth between those two things. And really, Poison Ivy could have been just completely eradicated from this film, and that would have improved it a little bit. But when you've got dialogue in a film where it seems like every line is a throwaway one-liner, almost everything in this is just trying to go for a laugh or go for, a guffaw. It makes this movie really tedious to sit through. I really had trouble making it from the beginning of this film to the end in one sitting tonight. I paused it several times and did other stuff and then came back to it later. Seriously, this is just painful to sit through. And I went and saw it in the theater in 1997, and I hate to say it, but I liked it better then than I do now. And I don't know if they were pumping some sort of, vapors into the theater while I was watching it the first time, because I really couldn't stand this film the second time. And the one thing that I noticed about this film, and it really started to get on my nerves, was the fact that almost every scene, Batman Forever was bad for this, but this is worse. Almost every scene seems to have sparks or lasers or neon or some sort of ultraviolet light going on, and it's really distracting. Like there's a motorcycle race scene, and through the entire scene there's sparks going off, and I think it's supposed to be firecrackers or something going off while the bikes go by. But every time the bikes go by the camera, there are sparks. And then I started noticing there are sparks in almost every other scene. And it's like every character had their own lighting technician that had to travel with them to set up their entrances or the action scenes, because every action scene has spotlights on the characters, or like a Verilight display, and it's just really, really annoying. This movie is crap, with a capital C-R-A-P. And I'm going to give it, really, honestly, I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. I couldn't stand this at all. And it's really hard for me to come up with anything good to say about it, other than George Clooney as Batman is pretty cool in the way he looks. What Joel Schumacher and screenwriter Akiva Goldsman have done with the character, they've completely reduced him to basically a comedian in a bat suit. Everybody in this movie has been reduced to a comedian. The whole film is just a farce. But I have to say that Clooney as Batman at least looks good in the role. He's a terrible Bruce Wayne, unfortunately. I still think Michael Keaton was the best Bruce Wayne in the entire series. But thankfully, this movie bombed. It cost $120 million to make. It only made back worldwide $125 million. So yes, it made a profit technically, but with the marketing costs and everything else, I'm sure it lost money. I'm grateful that it lost money, and I'm grateful that this put a stake in the heart of the Batman series as it was in 1997, because if this would have continued, this character would have been beyond repair, I think. Really, I can't say any more about this film without repeating myself endlessly, so I'm just going to stop there. But thankfully, I can put this part of the franchise to bed, and my next review will be of Batman Begins, where Christopher Nolan takes over in the director's chair and reboots the series for the better. And I think I'll have I'll have a much better time watching Batman Begins than I did watching this cinematic turd. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for sticking through this review, which I'm sure was maybe just as hard to watch as the movie. But stay with the channel for the remainder of the Batman series, which will be, of course, the reviews of Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. And I'll have those up before The Dark Knight Rises comes out in July. So thanks again for watching, everybody, and take it easy.